Sarah, all day. Hell yeah.
Arm wrestling's about to take place.
Yeah.
Good morning, YouTube world. I'm your host, Paul Italia. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. It is my pleasure to introduce today's guest. He is the son of the most famous arm wrestler on the planet, Auden Larratt. Welcome, Auden. Auden, how are you today, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here, Paul. I'm excited to be on another interview, and I can't wait for the questions you're going to ask me.
Hell yeah, brother. So I've been seeing a lot of activity on your YouTube channel, and in the last couple months, you've been making yourself known out there and taking a lot of super matches and tournaments, and just wanted to kind of learn about you and wanted to learn about how did you get into arm wrestling. Obviously, being the son of the most popular arm wrestler on the planet, I'm sure that helps. But when did the arm wrestling bug actually bite you?
So I've been arm wrestling really forever, and I've always loved it, but not to the same extent that I do now. It really got crazy for me about last year, start of summer, when I hurt my left shoulder. I hurt it really bad, and I had to end up getting surgery because I just kept dislocating it. And during that time, I couldn't do a lot of things, but I could arm wrestle. I could arm wrestle with my right, and that's when I really fell in love with it, because I'd always done it. I'd always done it as a kid. I'd always competed in different tournaments, and I trained for it a little bit. But after I was limited to just that, I just found that it was so much better than I ever even remembered, and I just totally fell in love.
So how old are you these days?
I'm 18. I turned 18 this year, and yeah, I'm 18.
Okay, so what was it like growing up, being the son of Devon and being the most popular arm wrestler on the planet? I'm sure it gets a lot of perks with it, but it also has a lot of setbacks as well. But how did it all begin? I know you always been around arm wrestling, but when did it start really taking serious form for you?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, when I was a lot younger, nobody really knew who my dad was. It was different. It was different back then. Back even 10 years ago, nobody cared about arm wrestling. It was way smaller. WAL wasn't around, or I guess it might have just been starting up. And it was a much smaller thing back then. So it wasn't anything crazy for me when I was growing up, like really young. I loved arm wrestling, but he was never some huge icon in the sport at that point. And then I think it was after he pulled with Hafthor Bjornsson, that's when he really started to blow up. After everybody saw that clip and everybody started analyzing it in these huge news sources and stuff, that's when I'm like, oh damn, this is a pretty impressive thing. Like this is legit. And then it just grew from there. Then he started really picking up on YouTube. WAL came around, and everything just started going crazy.
Now, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
So I've got one older brother, Milo. He's 20, and I got a younger sister who's Habry. She's 14.
Now, are the whole family into arm wrestling, or it's mainly just you?
So the whole family's into arm wrestling, but not to the same extent that I am. I'm a lot more serious about it. Like Milo was how I used to be, how he'd do it recreationally. He'd enjoy it. He'd kind of occasionally train for it. He'd go to practices and stuff like that. But he wouldn't train every single day without fail for that kind of stuff. And same thing with Habry. She loves it, but she doesn't do the same thing I do.
Now, do you play any other sports in school?
Yeah, so in school I try to just do really whatever I can. I just have fun as much as I can. So I sign up for basically all the clubs. I'm on the track team. I played badminton this year. I was playing basketball. I was gonna play rugby, but then my shoulder was too hurt for that, and I couldn't end up doing it. I did the frisbee team. I did basically just as many teams as I could sign up for, because why not? Yeah.
And what happened to your left shoulder? What caused you to have to get a surgery?
So the first time that I ever heard it was I was whitewater rafting. My brother was actually the guide of the whitewater rafting expedition, and we hit the side of some wave really weird, and it threw me out of the boat. And while I was out of the boat, the water sucked me down and just spun me, and it ripped my arms open, and it ripped my left shoulder so far back that it just popped out of place. And and we couldn't get it back in. Like we were tugging on it, we were doing the like throwing motions and stuff, and nothing to get it back in for like an hour and a half. So we had to end up going to the hospital, and they eventually set it. But ever since then, it was just so much weaker than my right shoulder. And anything, if I'd fall weird, if I'd do whatever, it would just keep coming out. So over time, it just kept coming out again, again, again. And eventually got to the point where my ligaments just, they were totally detached. They weren't going to heal on their own. So I had to get them readjusted.
And now after the surgery, how is your left feeling? Are you able to do everything, or there's a limit what you can do?
So I had surgery November 8th, I think. So that's like about 5 months ago or so. And it's really good now, but it's not perfect. It's not the same as it was, but I can tell it's pretty good. Like my range of motion is basically back. Like, I can go like all the way back and stuff, but there's still like it feels a bit weaker in certain spots. And in arm wrestling, like transitioning into a press, that motion in there is, I can feel there's weakness. Just in that one, like tiny, like right there, that angle is weak. But as soon as I'm even a tiny bit past it, it's fine. There's not much drawback really.
Okay, so you said when that occurred, that's when you really went into arm wrestling. That's when you started
Yeah.
focusing on the right hand and all. And are you following your father's training? Are you doing like the giant pumpkin or?
No, I'm not just doing giant pumpkin. I care a lot more about my right, but I train my left as well. I train both, but I follow his training very closely as well. I do basically everything he does lift wise and the like practice wise, but I have my own things I do as well that he doesn't do, and some stuff that he does I don't do. It's just I try to do left and right, and the stuff he does takes, it's so time consuming just in one arm. If I were to do it in both arms, it just wouldn't make sense for me to do. It would take up like 8 hours of my day, and then I've got school and work, and it's not possible for me to do. So I've switched it around a little bit so it fits my schedule better.
What are you talking about? I thought that all your dad does is train his thumb and sit on the couch all day. You know, that's what
Yeah,
he was
exactly.
posting for
Yeah.
Genadi.
Yeah,
So,
so it's obviously a little bit different than that. He does lots of blood flow stuff while just at home, but while at practice he'll do different stuff. It's all over the place, but very time consuming if I'm doing both arms.
now, do both parents, do they push you into arm wrestling at all, or they?
I wouldn't say they pushed me into it. It's like, of course they wanted me to do it. They guided me to the tournaments. They'd bring me there to compete and stuff, but it was really me who found the love of arm wrestling. Like for example, the my brother and sister, like they really like it, but it's different for them. And they've been guided and pushed the same amount that I have, but I was the one who it really stuck with, and I really fell in love.
So your mom is in full support of you being an arm wrestler and all?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My mom and dad are super supportive in anything I do in life. So I can't be more thankful.
The reason why I was asking that is I remember seeing a couple of times on Devon's channel, you know, I know your mom, Jody, she seemed a little nervous about you and your brother Milo having that super match and all. And, you know, just from her faces and all, you know, I could tell she was a little nervous that somebody was going to get hurt or anything. So I wasn't too sure if she was that supportive of you getting into arm wrestling.
Yeah, she's very supportive, but she's also very nervous about us all the time. Like she was telling me when I have my matches and stuff, she's more nervous when I'm competing than when my dad is. And yeah, the match with me and my brother and I is an interesting one because she thought that it wasn't a great idea just because it's my brother and he wanted to beat me, I wanted to beat him, and she wasn't a huge fan of it, but it happened anyway, so nothing she could really do about it.
Yeah, I could see that. You got two egos, two strong
Hmm.
boys coming up, and you know, neither one want to lose. So you know, it could very well end in an injury, and we definitely don't want that to happen.
Exactly.
So, what do you do for a living? I know you go to school and all, but do you have a job, or you know, I've seen you've been active on YouTube. Is that your main income? Like, what's the whole situation with that?
Yeah, so right now I'm working at a restaurant over in the place I live. It's a great restaurant. It's this breakfast place. I work on the weekends from 8 till 2 most of the time, and it's an awesome place. I'm a server over there, so it's great money, great tips, and the whole environment there is just awesome. It's a great supplement to YouTube and arm wrestling and all those things because I can change my schedule around pretty easily without much of an issue. and it's just a great way for me to make income at this time.
And how is the YouTube going for you? Because, you know, I've been looking over at your channel and I see some of the views you get. I mean, it's insane, bro. You get tons and tons of views. Is that equaling decent money for you?
It's not crazy or anything. Like, YouTube never pays incredible. It's nice. Like, it's great. Every cent I make off YouTube is just amazing, but it's not livable at all. It's nowhere near livable. I need to up those numbers significantly and post much more frequently, but that's the goal. I'm trying to get there, but I'm not quite there yet. But it's crazy to me how YouTube has worked out in the way that it has. Like, when I first started up, it was more going to be a catalog of my own progress and my own stuff, just to have a base of videos posted. And immediately, as soon as I started posting, it started like picking up, and I'm like, and I was just so shocked. I was so shocked that it went the way I was, and I can't be more thankful for all the people who support me and subscribe and stuff like that.
That's really amazing, brother. So, other than your father, who is some of the arm wrestlers that you follow and you get tips from?
So there's a bunch of arm wrestlers that I follow, and recently I've been following Armwrestler a lot. He's one of my favorite arm wrestlers. His technique is perfect. Everything he does is so impressive. Like, just this last match with Iraqli, everything he was doing was so smart and so tricky and so just incredibly smooth. So I watch all of his stuff as much as I can, and I try to learn every one of his matches is some new technical thing that he's doing, and it's just incredible to me. So I follow Armwrestler very closely. Of course, I follow Engen very closely, and John Brzenk and Denis Plankov, all the big names. I'm very active on keeping up as much as I can with all the news and all the different stuff that people are posting. But yeah, so mostly I'd say technique wise, I'm a huge fan of Armwrestler. Huge fan.
Now, how tall are you?
I am about 6'3" or so. I'm not exactly sure. I'm around 6'3". Yeah, I'd say 6'3" about.
And what's your weight at these days?
So my weight is kind of all over the place, but morning weight, I think I'm about 180.
Okay, so you're pretty similar to Ongabayev's size. I think Ongabayev is probably around like 6'1" or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure his actual weight, but I would think he's somewhere around that weight range. That's definitely somebody good technical to follow, man. That dude is amazing. Exactly. And, you know, I heard he's got a school in Kazakhstan with like 1,500 students. And, you know, he's like the Engen Terzi of Kazakhstan, which is pretty amazing. Now, if you had to pick one of those guys, who would be your favorite overall arm wrestler of all time?
My overall favorite arm wrestler of all time, I'd say it's between two people. It's between John Brzenk and Denis Plankov. Just because John Brzenk is the greatest of all time. He's done so much for the sport, and he really revolutionized arm wrestling and has been at the top for so long. And then there's Denis Plankov, just a total freak of nature who at his prime was just unstoppable. And debatably, he's even better now. So I'm so excited to see what he can do and continue to do. And I can't wait for his match with particularly my dad. That'll be so exciting. That match is going to be awesome. But it's so hard between the two of them. It's so hard because they both have incredible strengths, and they're both just so incredible. So I'd say it's a really close tie between the two of them.
Now, I got to ask you, because you brought up the Denis Plankov versus your dad match, and that was originally supposed to go down October 25th. But we just heard recently on Devon's channel that he was hoping to get a rematch with Genadi. And he's saying earliest would be August, latest would be the beginning of October. Now, with that rematch being a possibility, are we still locked in, do you know, with Denis Plankov for October 25th?
I am actually not 100% sure. I know my dad wants to pull Denis very badly. Like, that's a match that he finds incredibly important, but the rematch with Genadi is also very important. So I haven't heard anything. I don't know whether or not it'll be pushed. I think it's a possibility that it gets pushed a little bit, and I'm sure it wouldn't be a big deal for either Denis or my dad, because if it gets pushed like a month or a couple weeks, it's not the end of the world. But honestly, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I'm hoping they get a rematch, preferably August, because then maybe he can also do October, but we'll see. I can't say for sure.